One autumn night, Thomas arrived at the sheds after a hard day's work. He saw Rosie and Mavis in the yards, waiting. "Hello, you two. What are you doing here?"
"The Fat Controller called us here to tell us about some news regarding the branch line."
"Oh, and what's that?" Just then Derek arrived. And stepping out from the cab was the Fat Controller. "You're probably wondering for a few months as to why Derek has been here with some workmen inspecting the track. It's because we've been conducting research into how to improve the branch line for the Earl's Special Express service to Ulfstead Castle." "Improve, sir?" "Exactly, Thomas. I remember now. The Earl was thinking of using an engine that he bought from Australia. I've known about it ever since I saved the Earl's Glyn from rolling down the hill," replied Stanley. Thomas was puzzled. "Australia? But an engine from Australia is too big to run on Sodor." "Well, originally the engine worked on the mainland and in Europe, but was then sold to a private coal firm in Australia before it was brought back here." Thomas was cross. "Well, whoever this engine is, why should we share the branch line with it? We could have done the special service if the Earl wanted us to." "That does sound good in theory, Thomas, but I think the Earl's idea is better in practice because I need you engines to work on this branch line. I can't have you going off to the castle every day with passengers and leave all the workload to Toby and Stanley. Besides, my great-grandfather told me once about you trying to prove different views of yours. But they always turned out the opposite way, didn't they? So I don't want that happening again. Anyway, work on upgrading the line will start in the new year, and I will be assigning you to Edward's branch line for other work." After he left, Thomas was still fuming. Toby laughed. "I remember that day too well." "Well, that was different," replied Thomas crossly.
"What happened back then, Toby?"
asked Rosie. "Well, it was like this," replied Toby, and this was the story. Toby the tram engine arrived at the junction along with Henrietta and Elsie from his old line. Sir Topham Hatt was waiting for him on the platform. "That's a good engine. I see you brought your coach, Henrietta, and your luggage van, Elsie. You don't mind, do you, sir? The station master wanted to use them as hen houses, and that would never do." "No, indeed. We cannot allow that." Thomas was at the sheds being steamed up ready for his day's work. He was still feeling very grumpy after his incident with the constable. "Why do we need another engine? I'm fine. I can do the quarry work well enough on my own." "Well," remarked his driver, "I guess that means you want cow catchers and side plates then, eh? You know that constable will have a right fit if he sees you up there again. That constable is ignorant. I'm not a danger to that line. You said so yourself, driver." "I know, but you know what he says. The law is the law and we can't change it," grouched Thomas. "Hello there, you must be Thomas. And you, I suppose, are Toby. I've heard about you." "Well, that was rude of him," Henrietta said crossly. "Don't mind him," replied one of the workmen. "He's only like that because he's not used to change. He'll get over it soon. Come on, you two need a rest after your long journey." The next day, Toby was making his way from the quarry. But when he arrived at the same crossing where Thomas had his encounter with the policeman, he saw a cow on the line. Luckily, the trucks were being well behaved, and they managed to stop in time. Toby trying to wheesh it away. Then he rang his bell and blew his whistle. However, the cow didn't move. Then Toby had an idea. Let's give her a little nudge, driver. So they did, and slowly they bumped the cow with the cow catcher. This got the cow's attention, and then she moved away from the line. Later that day at the sheds, Toby began telling Thomas about his encounter. As Toby began to rest, Thomas was still grumbling. Toby's a steam engine like me. Why isn't he a danger to the roads? Oh, Thomas, you know the law, replied Annie.
Yes, you need the same thing that Toby has, added Clarabelle.
Cow catchers and side plates. I don't care. If a cow comes onto the line, I'll just blow my whistle and it will just tootle off. That night, Thomas puffed crossly into the shed. He then decided to make a plan to prove that he wasn't a danger to the public. Early the next morning, the station master was making his way to his office when... "Excuse me, station master, I need to talk to you." "What is it, Thomas?" he asked. "The Fat Controller came here last night. He told me that the law that goes against me was revoked because it was outdated. So can I take Toby's first stone train today?" "Well, if it's the Fat Controller's orders, I'll make some arrangements." Brilliant. Later, the arrangements were made and Thomas puffed his way to the quarry backwards. He passed the crossing. Danger to the public. Ha! He muttered. Later, Toby woke up to the news. The law has been revoked? Strange, I didn't hear about it being revoked. That's what Thomas told me. The Fat Controller told him last night. But I didn't see the Fat Control last night, sir, and I was awake most of the time too. Oh, said the station master. Oh! Wait here, Toby. I need to speak to the Fat Controller. Meanwhile, up on the quarry line, Thomas puffed down the line with his train of stone. I'm no danger, I'm no danger. But then... Get out of the way! Thomas whistled. The driver applied his brakes. Luckily they weren't going too fast, and they managed to stop just in time. Phew! Remarked Thomas. Ahem. What are you doing here? Asked the constable scornfully. Taking my stone train, constable, replied Thomas meekly. More like breaking the law, and prove it to me just why you are a danger to the public. Indeed, replied Sir Topham Hatt crossly. I will give my engine a good scolding later on today, constable. Right, but this incident will result in a fine, sir. Good day. Thomas arrived at the top station and gave his train to Toby. Soon Sir Topham Hatt gave his stern word to Thomas. You are a very naughty engine. But sir... No buts, Thomas. There is a reason why I brought Toby here in the first place. I have had enough of your arrogance over these last few days. You've been acting like this ever since I announced Toby's arrival. You will stay in your sheds until I can trust you again. And with that, he walked sternly away to his car. As the days passed, Toby did the quarry work and Glyn took Thomas's passengers. Toby and Glyn didn't talk to Thomas for a few days, and he was feeling a little lonely and rather foolish over what he had done. One day, Toby was making his way from the quarry with some trucks in Henrietta. And as they neared the crossing... Hello! Oi, you! Cried the constable. But Toby didn't hear his shout. He thought the constable was ringing a hello back. Oi! You! Cried the puffed-out constable. Pardon me, constable, but what does it matter? Don't be funny, snapped the constable. I haven't had a wink of sleep ever since you came and began causing a disturbance by ringing that bell. Disturbance? I'm going over a crossing. It's railway regulations to warn people when an engine approaches. Regulations indeed. We'll soon see about that. He then hopped on his bike and quietly rolled away. The law is the law, and we can't change it, said Thomas to himself, and he laughed. For a man who's an officer of the law, he's not really that knowledgeable about railway regulations. You sure showed him, replied Thomas, and then they both laughed together as if they were old friends. I'm sure he learned a lesson. But did you learn your lesson over these last few days, Thomas? Yes, I did. I nearly hurt a cow, and I can see why the Fat Controller bought you. You have something that I don't. I was a silly engine. And a naughty one too, replied a voice. It was Sir Topham Hatt 1. I see that you are sorry, Thomas, and that you have learnt your lesson. However, if you ever forget this lesson, that will be the last straw, and I'll be taking away your branch. Now I want you to take your coaches out for the day. Yes, sir, replied Thomas, and he puffed away. Thomas and Toby are now firm friends, and Thomas tries his best to follow the rules. Though that wouldn't last too long. It's good to prove something different sometimes, but sometimes it can backfire. We all have to give things a fair chance, Thomas. And reluctantly, Thomas agreed.